And it's not good to wait for a problem to happen. It's just good at least to check in once a month, see your therapist. We are trained to deliver, news from one person to another in a way that is not going to offend the other person. And even a husband may come to you and say that I tested for HIV, I tested for HIV and AIDS, and they don't want to disclose. And the wife comes in, and if he has asked...
Hi beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. As usual, I'm your host Evana, and this is Coffee with Evana. Thank you so much for tuning in and liking our previous episodes. Please share them widely. This is the Women's Month. We have amazing episodes coming your way, but today we do have a guest, and this guest is a therapist. We are trying to accelerate action, but how are we going to do that if we don't have the right mindset for it? So we'll be talking about family, marriage, parenthood, regarding mental health. So please join me as I welcome my guest. Hello, Clara.
Hi, Ivana. So, my name is Clara Nkwenge. I am a mother of 4. I am a counselling psychologist, and I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very passionate about mental health, and the reason I got into this space is, personal reasons for one, but it is also something that I feel I was called to do, mental health. I've had a lot of personal experiences around that area, I'm a divorced woman, so of course divorce is a very life-changing event. So it comes with a lot of stigma, it comes with a lot of setbacks. So it is one of the reasons that help me recognize that mental health is very important. And of course, when we see what is happening in the generations of today, you find that a lot of people, not just children, families need a lot of help. And what I know is that we've been called to do this work, but the laborers are very few in the field of mental health, So I just wanted to make that contribution. Yes.
That's great. And what about other things that you do besides this?
I'm a mother of 4. I have my 4 beautiful children. The firstborn is 25. I have an 18-year-old, a girl. I have a 16-year-old, a girl, and my last born is a boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I say congratulations. 25, 18, and you're still, you're going.
Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, we are always excited to be hosted back at Design Connect, the world of homeware. From kitchen accessories to home decor, Design Connect offers everything you need to turn your house into a home. Please check them out in Tinder Road, plot 62. And spice it up. Do you have any specific personal experiences you would like to share about that really contributed to this journey?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, one of the life-changing events that I went through was divorce. And I think a lot of us, we underestimate some decisions that we make in life. It's a decision that I made, and I walked out of a marriage after 3 years. But with it came with a lot of instability, a lot of questions, self-esteem. The way culture is in Africa, in Uganda, divorce is like a taboo. So when something like that happens, there are a lot of things that happen. So I realized that I needed help because I was no longer myself. I'm an extrovert, but I became introverted. I isolated myself, and I lost myself generally. So until my family members, everyone around me, they realized, no, you really need help. And I sought the help that I could get. Actually, my family helped me find the help that I needed. And so today, I'm a different person. I think I've come back to the person that I used to be. the extroverted person, happy, somebody that I now can relate with others like the way I used to before. Yeah.
I've never heard of, being extroverted and you transition to the other.
You can.
But, wow.
In mental health, it can happen.
Yeah. So when do you realize that it is me? Like I personally need the help, because I believe there could possibly be, those arguments with your ex-partner. When do you realize that no, it is me?
You see, when the marriage crumbled, you reach a point whereby you realize that, okay, this has not worked and it might never be fixed. But then as an individual, I had 4 children that are depending on me. And these children would be absolutely helpless if I wasn't mentally healthy. I wasn't a present mom at that point. They were dependent on me. Then when I realized that my day-to-day functioning was being affected, when I realized that I was being overwhelmed by things, like this one life event has caused me to have emotional breakdowns which have become persistent. If I'm angry, it is for a long time. If I'm anxious, it is something that is just not going away. So at that point I realized, you know what? I think I really need help. If I cannot socialize and go out with my friends like I used to, if I can't connect with my children, if I'm in a space where I'm with a family, but you can have all this family around you, but you're just so lonely. You feel like you're all by yourself. That's when I realized that I think I'm getting into a rabbit hole that I need to come out of. When I was going through it myself, the mental health breakdown and everything, at first you're in denial. But like I said, those who were around me, they realized there was something off. So they said, you need help. Of course, I resisted the help at first, but eventually I realized that I needed that help. So when I got the therapy that I needed, because it took about 8 months, I got to learn so much about myself. And I realized in that moment that there is actually a very huge disconnect between me and my children. I kept wondering, what have I done? Like it's a wake-up call, like, what is this? What were these kids getting from me? But I thank God for family. I had a support system, which was incredible. They supported me through this. I went through my healing journey. But then I realized also that if this is what divorce can do to someone, because I didn't deal with those emotions. When I was getting divorced, I did not. Yes, I did. I think I went for therapy in the beginning. I just did 1 session and I abandoned it. And I kept quiet like for 10 years. And all these things came back and slapped me back in the face. So now, did I say 10 years? No, it should have been, it wasn't 10 years. It was less than that. So now when I began to seek for help, then I began to see that this has affected me this much, it has impacted on me this much, then how about the kids? Exactly. So a lot of adjustments had to be made. So until I got the help that I needed, because if I didn't get the help, I could lose these children, the ones I was raising. And there's nothing that hurts more than a parent, losing that sense of freedom, even being disconnected from their child. It's so devastating. So when I got that healing myself, I realized also my own children needed help. So we try to seek for them help individually, depending on what they presented. One began to tell a lot of lies, and we realized this is not just an issue that came up yesterday, but there's a reason. And different issues, different issues started manifesting through my children as well. So I sought help for them. And that is why I really, really advocate for mental health, for professionals to get into your life and help you. It is important. So today I have a much better connection with my kids because one, I was so passionate about it to the point that I decided to go back to school. I did business administration. That was my original field that I did. But I decided to go back for mental health. I did a postgraduate diploma in counselling psychology. Now I'm doing a master's degree in mental health. But all these have helped me now to understand myself, others, my surroundings, and how to appreciate, human beings and mental health. And honestly speaking, now when anyone speaks to me, it's like that heart is always on, the psychology heart. You're always assessing someone's mental health. You're always looking for, not that you want to kind of, I don't know what word I can use, but it's always important to be conscious about your surroundings and to see the people that are around you and whether they are okay or not. And of course, it's nice for once to be able to accept people without judgment, because you can go in a place and everyone is like, we are fed up of this child, and you're like, no, this child might have an issue, And actually, when you sit down to realize, you find this person does have a mental illness or a mental disorder that needs to be addressed. And then, of course, psychoeducation comes in. People need to be educated about what is happening to their mental health or what is happening to their family members, so that people are supported better, they are loved, they are included, but not all the time stigmatizing someone. This one is just naturally badly behaved, you push them away, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Interesting conversations here, always. I would like to also know, in your field, what are some of those challenges that people or your clients reach out? What are the most common challenges that they tell you about when they come for you for therapy sessions?
Well, one thing about counseling, it's most people have a misconception about it. I think it's because of stigma. If someone is told to go for counseling or therapy, the first thing that comes to mind, they think maybe they've lost their mind, but that's not the case. Usually, people are challenged in their day-to-day lives. They're overwhelmed, they get stressed. And the fact that I decided to deal with families, marriages, for me, I'm very passionate about that because of what happened to me. So you find that people have lost themselves. Somebody wakes up in the morning and they feel like they don't feel like they have purpose or meaning in life, or so much is coming at them and they really need answers. They need somebody, and somebody can't just go and open up to a friend, because either they will be judged, or they are going through something, they will be judged. So they're like, you know what? Let me go and seek help. Now, these are the kind of people that come to me. People that are filled with anxiety. Depression is creeping up on them, So they come for help, and we sit down and we talk, and yeah.
Because the perception that we have, one day I had someone say, in Africa there's no depression. For example, you're a single mother, you're going through challenges, but then you have kids to take care of, so there's no time for depression. I think it was Oprah who had it from somewhere in South Africa, and then she was like, wow, this perception is really not healthy. What are some of the things that you would like our audience to know about depression? When should they seek help?
Wow, that's a good question. I think by the time as an individual you feel that you need to get help, is like I said earlier, when you start feeling overwhelmed and emotionally you feel you cannot regulate your emotions anymore, something very small happens and you have such an outburst, when you fail to connect with others socially, because we all need each other, those relationships need to be healthy. But now when you realize that everywhere you go, even if it's just a relationship between you and your spouse or between you and your workmates, there is a complaint, or when you actually feel you need personal growth, you reach a point you feel stunted in your life and you feel, no, I should be heading somewhere. So this is the time that you need to seek for professional help. And also sometimes it's not just about a mental thing. You might want to make some changes in your life. You might want to leave this country and go to another. You might want to change jobs. So you need guidance. I don't know, I hope that answers your question.
It does. And then I would also like to know, you've talked to very many people, and we know that men usually don't open up easily.
True.
So how do you get them to really meet you and open up? Because you could meet probably a wife who is married to this person, and women will always open up, especially to fellow women. But men, how do you get them out of that shell? How do you break through to get them to open up to you?
The thing with counseling is that we are trained, first of all, to make the environment very safe for somebody to come and speak to you, okay? So the first thing you assure a client, a male client, is confidentiality, because some of them really are going through issues that if they're afraid of even speaking to pastors or the spiritual leaders, because they might say something that is going to be very dangerous towards their marriage or their relationship at home, back home. So for me, when they come to my space, when they're in my space, the first thing that I offer them is that comfort, that you can speak to me, the confidentiality, the privacy. I will not divulge your information. I will not judge you for what you're telling me, okay? So, because these are problems that we go through every day. We are not perfect. Even me, who you're talking to, I've probably done worse. So, when you're speaking to me, at least you have that empathetic ear. I empathize with them. Because even when you look at statistics today, men are more prone to committing suicide than women. Women, we are very emotional creatures. We speak our minds, we connect very easily, but men don't. So at least if you can manage to get one man in a room and have him speak his mind, and you respect him and you help him out of it, I think you'd have helped so many others. Yeah.
Yes, but well, I don't know. I think men just really need these sessions. They need a lot of these sessions. So how do you handle your mental health?
Myself.
As a therapist who listens to all these stories on a daily, how do you prepare for these sessions early morning, and how do you handle what you've listened to at the end of the day?
That's a good question, Ivana. Now, I'm a therapist, but I also have a therapist. And the therapist is for life. Because we listen to a lot of traumatic stories, and trauma is transferred. Vicarious trauma. It's transferred, and if you do not deal with it, you'll have a mental breakdown yourself, burnout. So self-care is very important for us therapists. It's very, very important. That is why when I go through a number of, like if I have a lot of clients on my list and I've listened to their problems for quite some time, I also find time to seek help. So I have a therapist that I see. I also go and offload, because if I don't, I'll burn out very quickly. Then I have to have, of course, self-care. I have to get time off, We cannot work, and then you don't rest. We need to get time to rest. Self-care very important. I do a lot of things. I meditate, I pray, you know, I love cooking. So cooking is one of, like, it's therapy for me. Like when the whole house is quiet, people have gone to sleep, you wake up in the morning, there is a cake, there's cupcakes, there's bread.
With you.
Yeah.
I should come and get free cakes and
Yes,
cookies
yes.
on the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what would you advise young couples? Because at least for the older generation, they have experienced it, most of these things in marriage or in a relationship. What would you advise young couples? When should they seek for help, especially toxic, those in toxic relationships? When should they come? Because I believe that if we are a couple, it's important to go together. Or would you recommend just individually? Because sometimes being in the same room with
Yeah, I know.
yeah, so how would you advise them?
For people who are beginning a life together, for couples that are young and are beginning life together, and if you're very sure that this is my person, for me, I would really recommend, first of all, premarital counseling. That is the counseling before. It's voluntary, as in you do it not because maybe you have issues or anything like that, but premarital counseling helps you to check and see, are you really ready for this? You know, there are so many issues that they will bring up in premarital counseling that probably as a couple you had not thought about. That is before getting married. So premarital counseling is very important, even if you do it for 6 months, because when you're coming together as husband and wife, that's a life commitment, and it's a very serious commitment which requires a lot of work and which requires a lot of support. So it is important. It is important to seek for that help. Now, like for me being a Christian, born again, it is important to get professional help as well as the spiritual help. At least the two should work together. And then when you're in the marriage itself, at least it's important to have a therapist on call. It's good to have one. I'm not saying that you walk in with this mentality that something negative is going to happen, no. But it is always good to have professionals in your life that are going to help you with different things. You know, like how you go to someone and say, hey, this is my dentist, I have a lawyer, this is my pastor, this is who. It is good to have a therapist because they keep you in check at all times. And of course, when you're in the marriage itself, there are so many things that are important that bring two people together. Values are very important. Are you compatible in as far as values are concerned, your faith, and that's a very, like a whole topic, on its own.
And so you advise that couples should go for these sessions
before, during. Yes, premarital counseling is very important, and also counseling within the marriage. And it's not good to wait for a problem to happen. It's just good at least to check in once a month, see your therapist, see where you are.
But then I'm also looking at it in this way. We could have a therapist together, one therapist.
Yes.
So how do you handle those issues where the wife says the husband is in wrong, the husband says no? Because, for example, if I am the wife, I would definitely say, oh, you're siding with the husband, or you are siding with the wife because you are both women. So how do you handle that?
Well, that's a good question. Now, the thing is, when it comes to counseling couples, depending on who came to you first, sometimes the man can come to you first, or the woman, or both can come. In fact, when they both come, so much the better. But now if, let's say, it's the husband that has come to you first, so you listen to them. At least you give them some good sessions, work with them until they are in a healthy space. If they've come with issues or challenges, you work with that individual to make sure that they're in a healthy space. But then at some point, you have to seek for permission from the one that came to you. Is it okay now if we invite your wife? Because remember, you're dealing with family. And for us, we're in the business of restoring peace, reconciliation. So the wife has to come in. Now, when the wife comes in, the conversation that you have with her will also test your professionalism. As in, we are trained to deliver, news from one person to another in a way that is not going to offend the other person. And even the husband might say, I have told you this and please don't divulge that information. Even a husband may come to you and say that I tested for HIV and AIDS, and they don't want to disclose. And the wife comes in, and if he has asked you not to disclose, you don't disclose it. But as a therapist, you will encourage the husband that at some point you need to talk about this with your wife. You keep trying, because remember the issue of confidentiality. But then there are issues you find that the couples will talk to you about that need to be heard. The husband needs to be heard, the wife needs to be heard. So you, as the one who is in between, you have to find a way you deliver the feedback on either side without breaking communication. Yes.
And how would you advise? Because of course most people say get married to your best friend. Get married to someone that you have most things in common with. So what if we do have something in common? Maybe you went through a traumatic experience and I went through, and it's more of, oh, you went through this, I went through that, I feel like we understand each other. Do you encourage that? Because I've seen it, especially in young couples. Okay, you went through an experience that is similar to mine, and we feel like, yes, we are good to
can
go
do
together.
this.
Yeah. How would you encourage that?
Well, one thing is, rushing into anything is not good. When you make rash decisions to do things, you'll hit a brick wall at some point. So for me, that's why I said premarital counseling is very important. If a couple come to me, or if someone comes to me and says, do you think these are the attributes that can help me start a life with somebody? That's a topic we have to dive into. We have to look at so many aspects. We have to look at the values, the beliefs. There are so many things. So you can't just begin a relationship on one or two attributes alone. I wouldn't advise it. It's something I would say you step back and reevaluate. Yes, and then.
So we've also noticed that there are very many women who come into these relationships or marriages with a lot of emotional burden. I would give an example of single mothers. And they try so hard to make sure that they fit in. They put it upon themselves to make this relationship or marriage work. This is, of course, out of the many people that I've talked to, and they always, I think it's more of like they feel pity for themselves. Who will accept me with my child? How would they handle? How would you advise that they handle that kind of relationship, and to avoid so many other things, coming out, or that emotional burden? How can they offload and just get into this space of, I am worth it, I am loved, like this person actually loves me for who I am, not that they have to do so much to fit into their world?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that this is a month for women. And women, we are always at risk for, mental health issues for many reasons. You talked about being a single mother. Emotionally, a lot happens to us. We have hormonal changes. You have an adolescent, then you have some of us who are going to go through menopause. We are very vulnerable creatures, in terms of domestic violence and things like that, abuse and stuff like that. So you find that as a woman, if you are a single mother and you plan to settle down, it is important, once again, to seek for professional help. In instances like that, it is good at least to check in with someone, a professional. You sit down and talk to them. This is the decision I've made. This is what I want to do. I have a child. Because this is a life-changing event. So it's good to go through all those checks and balances. We find out, how do you feel about it? How does the gentleman feel about it? How does your child feel about it? You explore all those dynamics. You know, you paint a picture of exactly what you are going to walk into to see if you're prepared for it. You know, there are so many areas that we will tackle professionally, which will give you an idea of exactly of what you're stepping into. Are you ready for it emotionally, psychologically? Can you handle it? Are you ready to answer all those questions? You know, if somebody asks you, but if someone says this child is not even our child, doesn't belong to us, are you ready for all that? How are you going to respond to them? You know, it's good to always seek for help. Like I said, life-changing events, if something is going to happen to you, you're going to transition to something else, it is good to seek for help, because we also give that emotional support. We will give you that support to help you transition from one lifestyle into another. Yeah, we will have to go through all the, like, you kind of go through the different aspects of life you might go through. Yeah.
So you talked about the children, and children are part of the family.
Yes.
You've interacted with very many people, and I believe you've interacted with some young people who have stories to share about their childhood.
Yes.
What are some of those main highlights that, as a therapist, I know we get shocked. Like sometimes I interview people and I'm like, hey,
yes,
these things actually happen. So what are some of those experiences that you can share? Of course, not disclosing the name.
No, I
but
can't.
That you share, so we make our viewers understand that these things actually do happen. And how did you advise this individual, and how are they doing, if that's okay to also ask? Or are they still in the journey of, working on themselves? Yeah. That's
a good question. Now, the young people, you're talking about the young adults, the youth, the teenagers, and so on. Yes, I have counseled a few or some, and most of the times you find that the state in which a child has found themselves, that mental space they are in, it is usually due to the caregivers. Because the caregiver that is father, mother, or any guardian, those that are raising you, first of all, mentally, how are they themselves? So you find some of the clients that I've counseled, you find they've come from homes which are filled with domestic violence, okay? Or they come from broken homes. There's a single parent, an absent father or an absent mother. So you find that the caregivers themselves, they do not create that environment, a healthy environment for a child to grow. You find the children grow and have a lot of issues.
So do you feel like you talked about the relationship with your kids is much better? Are they more open? Because now they know, okay, probably mom is a therapist, and if I talk about this, that the other hat.
The other hat is always switched
on. Yeah. How do you have these conversations without having that hat on, just as a mother, ready to just guide them?
To be honest, as a mom and now a therapist, it is very difficult, by the way, to counsel or to professionally help those that you have an emotional bond with. If my child comes and tells me I'm going through this, or they are describing something that they are going through, of course the mom's heart will come on first. Those emotions will spring up. But at least it has enabled me to recognize some of the patterns that I feel this child, I think, needs help. I have spoken to each one of them, and they have also now learned to appreciate professional help. One of my daughters told me, she's 16, she said, you know what, Mommy, I think I need someone to speak to. Why? Because she's in a secondary school. It's an international school, partly the normal curriculum. So you can imagine the environment, the kind of children that, they come from different homes, different values, the kind of things they do. And some of the things she told me that were happening, I was mortified. But I'm glad she came and told me she needed help, and I got her the help. But I cannot professionally. I cannot. I can understand and then refer them to
That is very important.
But at least I've become I think I've become
There's
more.
progress.
Yeah, there's progress. That's a good word.
Because now when you talk to these children, they help you check yourself.
Yes.
How do I react to this?
Absolutely.
Before they would tell you something and probably you'll be like,
I know.
but now I feel like because now you've grown, you have so much experience, and as a mother you understand situations better.
Yeah.
So that's a good point to note. Now I wanted us to also talk about, there is a lot of myths going on about therapists or therapy. For example, once I had someone tell me about it and I was like, I will go and you'll just talk to a therapist. And I was like, I'll go. But in my mind I was like, that's damn expensive, it's for the rich. So just to break that, is it okay to ask you to come for us to have these sessions with you or with any therapist out there? What should we come with? How much should we come with? Because we are so scared just reaching out, and we know, and the name itself points so much, like therapist. Huh? When you talk about a counselor, okay, therapist, hey, that's so heavy.
We're more or less the same.
What would you say about that? Especially for those who want to reach out and they're afraid because, well, it's very costly. We don't know if it is, but well, that's what's out.
Well, when it comes to pricing or packaging counseling services, when you're going through a physical ailment, you've been told maybe you have diabetes or malaria, or you need to undergo surgery, okay? So, and your life depends on it, maybe, let's say. You will spare no expense till you get money to get the treatment that you need. That is how quick people jump to make sure they take care of their physical ailments. But one thing that people don't recognize is that mental health is equally important. You know, you can have 2 limbs and you still function because your head is functioning. But when all your faculties up here have been shut down, you're deemed useless. So, as much as you love to invest in yourself in other aspects, it's also good to invest in mental health. As far as expenses are concerned, I think it depends on the expertise, because you find that some people have been in the field for a very long time. They've gained the skill, because it's also a skill that is polished with time. So you find their pricing packages are different. But of course, when people come to you for services, you find that there are other services that are involved. You might meet someone as an individual, the pricing is different. You might meet a couple, the pricing is different. If you're meeting a whole family, the distance, location, am I coming to you, are you coming to me? There's so much. And then there's also group therapy, where you're meeting community members in terms of groups. So you're meeting people who probably going through, a similar problem. It can be addiction or something, and you are meeting a group, or people who are suffering from, a terminal illness and they need therapy, they are groups. So you find that as you go through mental health and all its requirements, the prices will vary. But at the end of the day, what are we looking for? To make sure that somebody has, a healthy mind. But at the same time, I think if you look at it in terms of monetary terms, as a therapist, if you're looking at money alone, then I think you're in the wrong place. You also need to really care about people's mental health. But it is a service that shouldn't be feared, you know? You can also sit down and negotiate. You know, Ugandans, we bargain for things. You negotiate and you come to an understanding. We are not really cruel. Sometimes, now if someone comes to you and they are suicidal and they even probably have nowhere to start from, you have to have that humanity in you, you know, to help someone. But at the same time, I have watched this particular field being abused in the sense that it's not respected. But if you go to the Western world and everything is okay. But right here in Africa, I think we are just gaining momentum now, especially after the COVID era. I think that's when people have learned to appreciate that actually mental health is real and you can be a candidate anytime.
But so you mentioned you're a Christian.
Right.
And, of course, according to the discussions we've had in the past, you are a strong believer. How do you have sessions at your church or fellowships or cells where you get to really give this, to offer your service? How would you advise someone like me who still wants to hold on
to your faith,
and what are those things that they should look out for in different religious places to just make sure that you don't lose yourself, you don't lose yourself and your mental health is in check? And when is it time to just realize that, you know, something is really off? Yeah.
Well, that's a very important aspect that you've touched on. When it comes to religion or spirituality, in psychology, when you're looking at an individual, you have to look at a person holistically, because you are Ivana, you have a body, you have a soul, you have a spirit. So definitely when you come in for a session, I have to look at you holistically. Your spirituality is very important to me as a therapist when I'm trying to address your issues. So when it comes to an individual's religion or spirituality, it is important for you to have the knowledge about your religion or your faith or whatever you hold on to as far as spirituality is concerned that is dear to you. But it's important to also have the facts around it. For example, you're a Christian. What guides the Christian individual? What is your belief system? What are those values that you hold on to? First of all, we have a Bible that guides us. So the thing is, when you spend time learning the facts about your religion, you know that these are the do's and the don'ts. This is what the Bible says. The knowledge around it, once you take time to understand it, once you take time to understand your belief system, your value system, it should be able to safeguard you. Now, when it comes to religion or faith or spirituality and your mental health, anything that you do in extreme is very detrimental to your mental health. I'll give you an example. If you take wine, maybe after a meal, 2 glasses, that is moderate. But the minute you begin to take a bottle after a meal, and then 1 bottle turns into 3, that's extreme. It's the same thing when it comes to your spirituality, or however you try to play it out in your life. If you find that when you are making your day-to-day functioning, and you find that you attribute so much time to church versus going to work, versus taking care of your family, something that you give so much time, when it becomes extreme, then you know it's not good for you. Likewise, you will be in an environment in church and you start seeing things are not really operating the way they should. If it's a Bible-based church, for example, and you start seeing they are doing some extra things which are outside of the belief system, outside of the principles that guide that particular church or religion, then you know it's time to run. Because anything that is going to get you to that point, anything that triggers you to a point where you start feeling overwhelmed, where you feel you've lost control, where you've lost yourself, then you know this is working against your mental health. You know, it's not just even about the church environment. It can even be a family that is toxic, a family member or family members that are toxic. If you're protecting your mental health, it is okay to step away. You will offend some people. Yes, they'll say these days but you're protecting yourself. Sometimes it's good to be selfish for the sake of your mental health.
Yeah, so thank you so much for availing time to just talk about mental health. It's a really burning topic, right now. And we hope that you will be available to be hosted again, to just dive into more conversations, to just redeem them. Yeah, so thank you so much. But I would like you to give a piece of advice to whoever is watching out there and they're seeking for this, for help. What should they do? And just words of encouragement.
So I will use a statement that is cliche, like I said. Mental health is real, and it creeps in when you least expect it. So it's very important that you are aware, you're self-aware, you know the triggers around you. It's good to pay attention to the attention you give your body when something is wrong. It's also important to pay attention to your mind, because your mind is your major faculty. I mean, that's where everything sits. So it's good to seek for help, and you don't have to wait, by the way, for an emotional breakdown to happen. But anytime you have challenges, when things are not working out, when you feel you're disconnected from yourself, it's good to seek help. It's good to care for yourself. Most people, when they think of self-care, they think of going for spas and skin routines and so on. You should also have some time to put your mind, to rest, for it to unwind, to bring your mind to that state where you know that my cup is empty. Let me take time off. I feel it so that it spills over to others.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I cannot add anything to that. It's already perfect information. Thank you so much for availing time once again. And to anyone who would like to reach out to her, please, we are leaving her contact details in our description box. So please check it out. But thank you so much for, being able to watch. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and just spread the word. We really appreciate your feedback and in the comment section. And until next time, this is Coffee with Evana, where real conversations meet real impact. Bye bye.